Journey with Judy. Honest, open, transparent. It's hot.
There's no such thing as perfect people. There's no such thing as a perfect life. So come as you are, broken and scarred. Lift up your heart and be amazed and be changed by a perfect God.
Last week, I always say to you guys that I'm asked to practice what I preach, and I'm asked to walk in the things that I talk about. And so when I spilt milk the other day, Dave literally spilt a glass of milk. Someone was in my house and said, "Don't cry over spilt milk." And we mentioned that last week, that the things we look at change when we change the way we look at things. And when we get something, when something happens in our life, all of a sudden, other things fall into perspective. You know, in retrospect, if you could look in the rearview mirror, you know, how beautiful life would be. But I guess hindsight is 20/20. And I wish I had some hindsight this week when the storm was rolling in. Dave, I don't know if you recall this because it's been days ago, but last Tuesday morning, there was something coming at least towards Fontana where I live, that was pretty creepy. And just to set up the stage here for this, our opening story is I was already backed out of the driveway with Kennedy in the car, and we were heading to a therapy appointment when my man came walking out, looking at his radar and warning me of what was the incoming weather. And last week we also said conditions dictate your expectations. So he was setting me up not to be in fear, but to say, hey, like there's going to be rain. And I said, baby, is it green? This is the question. Green, yellow, or red? You know, and obviously this relates to my poor driving. I need to learn green, yellow, and red in traffic and in a stoplight. And in the weather situation. So he said there's a little red and there's a little yellow. Okay, so immediately what came over me was fear. I started to get really nervous about anticipating what was going to happen. Do you understand that, Dave? So fear, we know, is false evidence appearing real. And in my case, that happens all the time. But here's what it was. It was big, it was scary, and it was intimidating, okay? Chandler called. Well, I didn't realize this, but at the same time, Chandler was calling saying how he was afraid. He was working out in Delavan, and he was seeing this thing coming in. And anyway, so here's what my man did. In this 5-minute window, and maybe it was a 3-minute window, we made multiple decisions. Multiple choices were made about what that had to do with our character, our beliefs, adversity, purpose, and most importantly, our attitude towards this particular situation. So the host of your show, Judy Hehr, I want you to know that as soon as I knew just how bad it was, my first inclination was to put my husband in the car with my daughter, send them out into the storm where my son was, and I would just hunker down at home with my youngest daughter. So I don't know what that really says about me as a person, Dave, because if it was really that big, that scary, that intimidating, and we were, possibly going to die that Tuesday, I want you to know I saved only myself and one of my children. So how sad is that? But here's the deal. I knew as I evaluated that situation that there was something very unsettling, something very uncertain, and the mere presence of that happening in my surroundings created fear. And it propelled me into making decisions that I don't know if they were right or wrong. They were made on the spot, Dave. But the bottom line is it appeared way worse than it ended up being. And isn't that just the way the storms in our life are? You are journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1. We'll be back after the break. Okay, so my family and myself in particular absolutely needs to leave something behind me. And I pray that God continues his work that he's begun in my life and your life until it's brought to completion, until we become the people that he wants us to work ourselves out to be with his help. So hopefully you're not like me. Hopefully you're not the person who puts your family in danger to save their own life, because I am this person who, when I see red on the radar, I absolutely get someone to drive to wherever it is. I want someone to come with me. It's like, here, I'm going to die and I don't want to do it alone. But the fact is how many times in our life are we in situations that we find so unsettling and so uncertain? We're forced to make choices that maybe we wouldn't otherwise make, or maybe even worse, we don't make because we don't realize that we have a choice other than our natural reaction to any given situation. And when I'm looking at that radar, and I am, well, and Dave, here's the thing. Bobby put this, my daughter put this on my phone, this application for the Weather Channel, or the weather map. So when I see that little icon turn red, I'm freaking out. So earlier this week on Tuesday, when I was looking at my phone waiting for this little icon to turn red, it remained blue. And so Campbell very quickly reminded me that my GPS was set at the town that I was in the night before, which was in another state in Illinois. So it was picking up the radar there instead of the radar here. See, Dave? So the fact is when we're looking at this storm and it's coming in, we don't know if we're going to get bombarded. We don't know if it's going to break up, and we really don't know the damage it's going to cause. But here's what we do know as people of faith, that it is always darkest before the dawn. And we get to choose how we respond to whatever the situation is. See, choosing isn't a have to. Choosing is a get to. And life is all about the choices that we make. So the universal paradox is you are free to choose, but you are not free from the consequences of those choices. And see, I love that that's how much God loves us. That's what was our opening prayer, Dave and mine, before we started the show, was thank you, God, for loving us so much that you just give us this choice, this free will to choose who it is we want to be, to choose who it is we're going to become. And you love us no matter what, but you want us to do stuff because we want to and not because we have to. So let's talk about 5 areas where we are free to choose. Number 1, we are free to choose our character. We're free to choose the people that we're going to become. But part of that choice is either being molded by what others think, believe, or insist we should be, which means we're accepting less. And if we don't do that, we get to choose to become more, all that we were created to be. And see, here's the deal. You can't judge people based on their choices, because generally you don't know the reasons for those choices. Because see, this is always about that, and there's always this underlying theme of why we do what we do. And I love to get to the bottom of that. I love to be able to listen to somebody's story about why they've chosen the character that they've chosen. And it's generally never what we thought. Number 2, we are free to choose our values and our belief system. See, because everybody does something doesn't mean we have to. This might be the most important area that we get to choose on in terms of life. And are we going to stand up for, or are we going to cave into? And it's not only about just thinking it or saying it, it's about living it. And that's the hardest part, Dave. Do you know that? Living. We can talk a big game, right? But when we have to walk in that faith, it's so much more difficult. And I'm convinced that we can't do it alone, which is why we need God's supernatural strength and power in our life to do things we couldn't do, to know things we wouldn't know, to see things we wouldn't otherwise see. Number 3, we are free to choose how we treat people. We're going to do 2 things. We're going to build people up, or we're going to tear them down. And gosh, we all remember that kindergarten thing, do unto others. I think every kindergarten teacher had that in their classroom. Do unto others. And a couple weeks ago, we said if it's not nice and it's not necessary and it's not true, then keep it to you. See, I believe that God puts people in our life to show us either what we want to become or what we don't. And hopefully, as people of faith, we're turning that lens inward and we're saying, God, what is it that this person is supposed to be teaching me? What is it that I can take away from what they're saying or being or doing that somehow brings it back to me and my part in how I'm treating my neighbor? And who's my neighbor, Dave? Everybody. Number 4, we are free to choose how we handle adversity. See, I've been crushed and persecuted, destroyed. How we respond to that, how we see the blessing in those curses is what makes us different. We can give up, we can have a pity party for ourselves, or we can cave into what it is we feel the world wants us to become, or we can stand up for what it is that we believe in and overcome that adversity, make the glass half full, turn a negative into a positive. Number 5, we are free to choose our purpose, or we can just be clueless. My husband always says he's convinced that so many people are walking around the world and they're just clueless. Well, that sounds like a diss, but I do believe that. I do believe if people could get in a room together, be honest, open, and transparent, talk about their opinions, their education, their experiences, we would be looking at each other going, I get it. I so get it. And here's the deal. I don't even agree with you still. But I get where it is you're coming from. I get why you are doing what you're doing, believing what you're believing. And the fact is it's all good because that's what makes the world go round. But we're free to choose this purpose and to be passionately, purposefully becoming the best version of you. Dave, come on, is that a challenge for you this morning to become the best version of you? Not the best version of your wife or your daughter or our boss, but the best version of you. How hard is that? It's hard.
Every day.
Every day, but it's a choice that we make, not one we have to, one that we get to. And I'm guessing that I'm running out of time. The choice is I got to go to break. But here's the deal. The most important choice, which is the foundation to all of the 5 above, is the freedom. The freedom, which freedom is not licensed to do what you want, but to do what you ought. Freedom is the one we get to choose our attitude regardless of the circumstances. See, I'm wondering why all my muscles, Dave, are atrophying. You know what happens is if you don't use them, if you don't use stuff, you lose stuff. And I don't want to ever lose the proper perspective and the proper attitude that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And knowing at the bottom of it all, the choices that we make will change our life. For good or for ill. You are journeying with Judy, and I don't mean to be so deep this morning. I'm a little passionate and purposeful on this subject matter for some reason this morning. You are journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1, which is made possible by Cunis Country Auto Group. We'll be back. Thank you, Newsboys, for the reminder that I am free and you are free. Because choosing to is a get to and not a have to. Like choice is the greatest thing, Dave, one of the greatest things that we have in life. And I love that God loves us so much that he says you get to choose if you love me. And I'm such a perfect gentleman. I will wait for as long as it takes for you to choose me, for you to choose life over death. And what happens as people of faith is we look at these storms coming into our life and we just wonder, how bad is it going to be and how will we be able to endure it and how bad is the damage going to be? But we know that it's always darkest before the dawn. We know that Good Friday always precedes Easter Sunday. And so no matter what the situation we might be in, we've got to be reminding ourselves that we always have a choice. And no matter how long we've traveled in a certain direction down a certain path, we always have a choice to turn around. And see, I'm convinced that as great as our school system is and our athletic systems are, and as great as a community that we live in, we're always learning life lessons, but we don't necessarily get an education, number one, on to know how good we can really be. Dave, do you know that by age 18, we have been put down 100,000 times? Really? Yep. There's a statistic, and you can buy it or take it or leave it. The reality is somewhere out there it says by age 18, on average, we have been put down 100,000 times. And so how do we combat that? How do we not fall into believing the lies, accepting mediocrity, and selling ourselves short? I guess we got to pray for people to step in our life and remind us of how good we can really be. And the choices that we make are going to dictate that, Dave. You know what? I keep saying your name because you're the only one here who I think is listening to me. So sorry I keep bringing you into the dialogue. But it's totally true. We always have a choice. And we are today becoming the result of our choices yesterday. So number one, we don't only not know how good we can be, but Dave, we are not taught how life works. We are not given the tools to be successful, the tools to succeed and to follow, not to follow, but lead. Those are tools that we need that we don't learn in school. How to develop how to develop the skills necessary to set a goal, to achieve a goal, and then to ultimately attain a goal, that knowing that what we're doing is affecting everybody around us. And the number three thing that I don't think we learn in terms of choices, no matter how much education we get, which is the good old-fashioned truth, never goes out of style. See, we don't embrace that. There's no quick and easy way to get what it is that we want, to become the people that we are capable of being. People of character with a strong belief system and values that are able and willing to face adversity with purpose, with passion, and with an attitude of gratitude, knowing that that's what's changing us, is the tough stuff. See, we want to find a way out of something or around something. But the only way out is through. See, here's the deal. I hear something and I forget it. I see something. I might remember it. But if I do something, I'm understanding it. And I am understanding that no matter what the situation, we got to be reminding ourselves, we do have a choice. And I'm digging that choice, Dave. And my choice at this moment is to go to break and come back. You are Journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1. Okay, so we talked about choices today, and the most important choice, which is foundational to all the others, is the freedom to choose our attitude regardless of the circumstances. And what is your attitude? It's your mental outlook or frame of mind. Your attitude is what you're saying to yourself when you talk to yourself. And Dave, I do that way more. I don't know how many voices I have in my head, but I have a lot of them. And I'm hoping that the voices in my kids' heads or the people's heads that I love is positive, and it's life-giving, and it's always going back to the fact that we get to make a choice about our character, our belief in the face of adversity, knowing that there's a purpose. Every day, every hour, we get to make a choice. And it's way more important, Dave, than your intelligence or your education or your success. The choice you make is the number one thing you do. There's the 3 C's. Did you ever hear that, Dave? I'll end the show saying this. The 3 C's, life changer, deal changers. Journey with Judy today, day changers. The choice, the chance, and the change. You must make the choice to take the chance if you want anything in life to change. So that I commission you to do that this week, my friends. Be aware of your choices, knowing that you are free to choose life over death, that it is a total 100% get to and not a have to. Thanks for journeying with Judy this morning right here on Lake 96.1. And if you're not going to make a choice to make a change and take a chance, well, then you might as well keep it hot, honest, open, and transparent. Peace out.